Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, July 4th, and we are on our European account and we need to play some Battlecry cards. So let's hop into that and go. I want to, for the most part, at the end of this recording be done and wrap up the stream. That way I can take a little bit of a break and in some vain hope try to record Warcraft Go, which is the game I should have been recording a week ago, and stupidly did not look at my own schedule correctly. Which is definitely an indicator that my attention and interest in running my channel has dropped, and I've been dropping the ball. And feeling bad for myself probably is not any way to really improve that. It's just after putting 4 years into a channel, you start to lose a little bit of steam, and I don't know how you re-energize yourself there. Moving on though, PC Gamer, since it's 4th of July and that's United States Independence Day, I imagine they took some easy routes and took the day off early.
Hello.
And so they put out one of these articles that could have been released at any point. How to lock down Facebook to protect your privacy. Sure. If you feel the need to do that, which you probably should do it at least once. This article seems like it's fair enough to explain.
Job's done. Greetings, friend.
To explain what you need to do. Speaking of protecting your privacy, the Wi-Fi encryption standard WPA2, which is what everybody has had for about a decade, and they're starting to certify WPA3 equipment, which means in like a year maybe we'll start seeing WPA3 things. Well, about a year ago or so, they came out with this vulnerability in WPA2 called the Crack, K-R-A-C-K vulnerability that allows people to basically hack into your Wi-Fi. And we don't need to really go any further than that. If you're using the open source firmware DDWRT, which only works on specific types of routers, so you have to make sure yours are working. If you upgrade to a relatively recent beta version of it, that vulnerability has been now patched. If you're not using DDWRT, there's still a decent chance that maybe your relatively new Wi-Fi router might have a patch upgrade just directly from the manufacturer that you might consider installing. Like now would be a great time to upgrade it. There's definitely risk in it. You could totally ruin your Wi-Fi router. A lot of older Wi-Fi routers or even medium-aged Wi-Fi routers probably won't have patches at all. But if once a year you're going to upgrade your Wi-Fi firmware, that would be pretty good. I have the WRT 3200 ACM Linksys router, and I got it when it was brand new, and the software support for it was pretty bad.
Engaging TC-130 until
but eventually, after having to almost on a weekly basis install different upgrades and patches just to get one that might be a little bit more stable and more appropriate, more well-written code. I eventually found one, and I've been living with that one for a while. However, this weekend I will want to apply the patch. After I apply the most recent beta, if it's stable and it runs fine, I'll leave my Wi-Fi router software the same as it is. And probably until WPA3 comes out, if they could put WPA3 into older equipment. Because there's a Wi-Fi certification alliance, they have a tendency to not want to certify old hardware because it doesn't sell new hardware. So they may very well not certify any of the old equipment. Arguably, an iPhone and an Android phone will get patches to be able to hook up using WPA3, unless they do something really crazy with the standard. But there will be a time when everybody should be looking for WPA3 encryption, and the other thing is, right now you should be, if you have to upgrade right now, I'd kind of say wait a year or two. But if you have to upgrade, make sure you get something that handles 5 gigahertz, because frankly the speeds and the amount of empty channels is a huge improvement at 5 gigahertz. Every old Wi-Fi router is using 2.4 gigahertz, and because of that, those channels are very clouded and full of a bunch of noise that hurts your speed. Where if you do 5 gigahertz, you barely have any competition. Maybe one of your neighbors will have a router. And the WRT 3200 ACM theoretically means that if you had a device that supported 3200 ACM, which is basically the router itself and nothing else, you could get a lot more speed. Generally speaking, though, you would probably want 1600 ACM, because that's most likely as much as anybody's going to support for a while.
No touch.
Moving on, we've got a game on Steam called Battle Shapes. It's just like a slightly detailed but badly animated, looks like maybe a multiplayer asteroid game where you're shooting other ships and flying around. Yeah, you're flying around like asteroids and you're shooting other ships. But it's using very simplistic graphics, very low-end graphics, and it's just not visually appealing. So I'll pass on that. It's also early access for no reason. 20% off for $6.39, way too expensive. Let's see, we've got a game in Chinese, and it's only in Chinese. Looks like it's some kind of Chinese military shooter, but the name's in Chinese and the language is only Chinese. It's also, for a game that's only targeted at the Chinese market, it's only 43% positive for 37 user reviews. So cheap Chinese knockoffs. It's a massive multiplayer military first-person shooter. Like even the Chinese don't like cheap Chinese knockoffs. I guess you could go into a bit of a rant there and say, since China is so overpopulated, it just shows how having too many humans in one area ruins everything. So there's been a whole list of Hinta slide puzzle games, or which they're called Hinta, but really what they are just slightly lewd, slightly erotic anime girls and slide puzzle games. But Hinta Temple is out, and they do something a little bit different. They put the slide puzzle in a 3D environment of a shaky, collapsing temple. And so instead of looking directly on at the image and seeing the image, which is the thing I think you probably want to see, you're looking from an angled perspective, and the video doesn't seem like it even shows you the image. It doesn't guarantee that you see the image in all of its completeness when you solve the puzzle, which is something weird.
Me no crazy, you crazy.
It's 40% off for 59 cents, and I can't recommend buying any of these games though. You're funding very low effort designers. Other games that they've made is Geometry Rush, knife flipping, a game called Lost, a game called Obscurity, Minesweep, Archery Blast, Coin Pushers, and Bitcoin. Just, you know, the extremely low effort games. Extremely low effort games. Like, you can go find Intel Online for free if that's what you want, and you'll be much better satisfied. You'd be better satisfied doing a visual novel and going through the whole story. That would take up more of your time and have you more enthralled with it. Playing Honey Pop, for example, would be a much better thing to do with your time. We've got Retro Racers 2 on Steam, which is a MS Paint clone of an old arcade game that's zoomed in, and it just doesn't look like it's at the right camera angle, and the quality's not good. It's 10% off for 89 cents. When I see a racing game like this, it makes me wonder if it was a student project. This developer has also made things like Arkanoid clones and movie trivia games. So yeah, another low effort game publisher putting out garbage. Eurogamer has an article, Niantic may push its Pokemon Go style Harry Potter game into 2019. So with the most recent Harry Potter cell phone game being full of microtransactions and a horrible insult, maybe Niantic is going to push it back and make sure they make a good Harry Potter game and not compete with the bad one that's available. It's kind of weird that Harry Potter is coming back into the mainstream. It kind of never left, maybe left for 4 or 5 years once the movies were done, because the books were out and then the movies started coming out really in line with the books. It seemed like maybe there was 1 or 2 years between the final Harry Potter book and the first movie, if there was any time at all. And then the movies stopped, and it's been like 5 or 6 years where kind of nothing has happened. There's the Broadway play, and then the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movie, and I guess WB in particular is trying to do everything they can to resell Harry Potter, using Fantastic Beasts as an excuse to do that. The real thing that needed to happen, though, is J.K. Rowling needed to continue to write something. Could have been a completely different story. Could have been non-fantasy. Her writing, arguably, is not great, but it's something. And if she had just continued a series or started a new series, that would have been fine. There's definitely room to have written a Harry Potter-esque story where they go to one of the different schools instead of Hogwarts. That would have been fine. But she didn't do that. Also, she could have done more prequel books, I think, than she has. And she could have done sequel books, certainly too. But also there hasn't been a new book series. every generation has their own book series that comes out, and so far there hasn't been anything to replace Harry Potter.
Mind if I roll knee?
The Lego Harry Potter sets are slightly improved compared to the first time they released Lego Harry Potter sets, but because they're designed to be toy sets for kids, they're designed to be a little cheap, and that means they're gonna make like there's a rumored micro scale Hogwarts that's gonna be built, and really I would have preferred that there was a creator expert Hogwarts that was built, because the micro scale is just not going to have any detail in it, and it's going to use a ton of little pieces to imply detail that's not really there. The Hogwarts Express train is, I believe, an improvement over what it was originally, or how many other times they've released the Hogwarts Express train, and so I want to get that, but that's kind of it. The Walloping Tree set, not enough detail in it, and the Spider set, while the Spider is interesting, there's just not enough detail, and then the Grand Hall set is pathetically small for something called a Grand Hall. But the Hogwarts Express set fits, although it's gonna not really work in a Lego city very well, because it's supposed to be a train stop. The platform 9 3/4 train stop is also there, and that would imply that in people's Lego cities, for the obsessive collectors that build their own Lego cities, giant cities, you're going to have to build some kind of train station, and there's never really been a train station that I can tell that they've sold or implied you can build. Usually it's just the idea of there's a train stop where you get on the train and hop on it. There's a Christmas Lego creator expert Christmas train stop, train platform that you get on a train, but nothing where you're in, the minifigs are indoors.
Done.
Like the platform 9 3/4 is shown in the movie. Moving on though, I'm wasting time. I've got this game called Camp Grizzly. It says it's an indie casual simulation. This one is suffering from some bright screenshots. We have low polygon 3D characters. They look like they're animated well, but I'm having real trouble figuring out what kind of game this is. So you're a camp counselor taking care of 4 kids. Keep the children entertained or they'll leave and wander off. Don't let the fire out, it's bear season. So, seems like there's very little you do in this game. You play like a banjo or something, and you feed the fire. And it's a VR game. 10% off for $7.99. No, $7.19. We have anything here?
Dragani killed trespassers.
This Battlecry deck doesn't have very many Battlecries in it. So I have no idea why you would want to play a VR game where you're a camp counselor. And frankly, if you're going to play a VR game, I feel like you should well, apparently you can get mauled by a bear if you let the fire go out. The graphics should be more realistic in VR. I don't see the low polygon thing catching on. PC Gamer has an article, I think I retweeted this. There's one more day of the Steam Summer Sale. Here's our favorite deals. If your wallet hasn't already been hammered too hard, here's a few last minute gems to snatch up. I'm, of course, e-begging people to gift me games during the Steam Summer Sale. Friend me on Steam and gift me a game. Now would be your last chance. Of course, you could gift games tomorrow just as easily, but it would cost you more. Or you could get games via the humble sale that's going on right now, and things might be cheaper there. And then just direct message those Steam codes to me via Twitter. That works fine too. PC gamers are suggesting Rats Instagib, RATZINSTAGIB for 89 cents. A game called the YAWHG, YAWHG for $3. Tabletop Simulator for $10. I would definitely love to have Tabletop Simulator, and I think $10 is a good deal. Lovely Planet is $3. I already own that game. I didn't like it that much. Dungeon of the Endless is $3. Machinarium is $3. That's a point-and-click adventure game. Elix is $25, 50% off. It's apparently an RPG that's really, really popular, because if you're 50% off and you're still $25, that's surprising. You can get Downwell, the minimalistic roguelike where you jump down a well. Not to be confused with Downfall, the horror game. You can get Downwell is $1.50. Earth Defense Force 4.1, The Shadow of New Despair is $20 off for new for 60% off. $20 for 60% off. And I believe that game is relatively new. Like I don't think it's particularly old.
The end is coming!
So I'll double check to make sure that one's in the wish list too. Valdis Story Abyssal City is $5. This is a fantastic Metroidvania style 2D action game with a great soundtrack according to the PC Gamer recommendations. Seems like these recommendations are a collection of everybody who works for PC Gamer. Dungeons of Dreadmore, Valdis Story is $5. Dungeons of Dreadmore Complete is $3.50. Like, I'm getting some actual suggestions here of games to look at. Gianna Sisters Twisted Bundle is $4.50. Assassin's Creed Origins is $30, 50% off. I would argue though, in the case of Assassin's Creed Origins, the game might not be actually $30 off. $30 once you get all the DLC, if that's what you feel you need to also have. Samurai 3 Cosmic Edition is $6.87. Fallout New Vegas is $3.29. Again, if you get the Ultimate Edition, I bet it's not that expensive. It's not that cheap. Darkest Dungeon is $7.49. I believe I already own that. The Swapper is $2.84. So I think I want that. Devil Daggers is $3. Frankly, I'd say $3 for Devil Daggers is probably still a little too expensive. I'd like to see that price go lower, because it for me is a game that I'm only going to play once, and I know I'm only going to play it once.
For the crusade!
In there. So that's, let's see, Elix is mostly positive, over 4,000 reviews, but it's mixed ratings right now. It's a RPG open world single player in a post-apocalypse world. So it's kind of Fallout without having to deal with Fallout. When did this game come out? October 17th, 2017. Maybe they fixed some things on this, because I thought it was a little buggy. Or maybe it's just cheap enough now to justify it. I don't know. I'd be very, very careful and read the reviews on Elix. It's the by far most expensive game. Earth Defense Force 4.1, The Shadow of New Despair, is July 18th, 2016. So it's not a brand new game. It's single player, multiplayer, and it's $20. Earth Defense Force, I believe, is the game where you're fighting giant insects as a series, and for that reason alone, I'd like to play one of them. But that is a big ask. Baldur's City Abysmal. Baldur's Story Abysmal is mostly positive. Came out in 2013. It looks like so many games that I would overlook as just being a platformer type game. So I know that game is probably not on my wish list, and I think it should be.
Engaging TC-130 into dislocator.
Let's do this.
Die or die.
Dungeons of Dreadmore. It looks too much like an RPG Maker game for me to normally wishlist something, so I guess I'll wishlist this just because it does have a mostly positive rating of 76% in the last 30 days and a very positive rating of 94% in the course of its lifetime. It came out in 2011. So, yeah. Getting recommendations and trusting trusting PC Gamer is an interesting thing, certainly. Gianna's Sisters Twisted Bundle includes 2 games. The first one is Gianna's Sisters Twisted Dreams, which is sold as this competitive multiplayer game. I don't know if there's really a single player experience to have in this game, though. Like, just... It says it as single player, certainly, but I don't know if that's a 5-minute tutorial or if there's a whole game there. Samurai 3 Cosmic Edition is a point-and-click adventure game. Sadly, there isn't Samurai 1. Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition is still $10. So, yeah, that's not as cheap as you'd think. Darkest Dungeon Ancestral Edition with all the DLC is $22.34. So you're still paying a pretty big premium. That's where DLC was invented, is basically to screw people over and have them pay almost full price, or what full price used to be. Through buying the DLC. The Swapper, I believe I already have this either in my inventory or in my collection or on my wish list, but yeah, I definitely want to play the Swapper. Devil Daggers is the one that's hard to justify. $3 seems too expensive for something I know I'd only play for like a day and do like a spotlight on. And I certainly don't want to be a gamer, a video game critic that gets used to the feeling of playing a game for an hour or 30 minutes and just being like, okay, that was worth the $5 I spent on it. That was worth the $2.50 I spent on it. I want to be more in line with most people's expectations as far as dollars per hours and dollars per entertainment. And I don't inherently buy into the argument that you can be so exquisitely entertained in 30 minutes that a game justifies an extremely high price. Moving on, there's a game that came out on May 29th on Steam called Black Faith. I don't know why this game is even on the list. It's in early access, it's free to play, but it's just an asset flip game, so I don't know why that was there. What is it called? RetroArch emulator that runs a sub-emulator, so it's kind of like the top level interface of several emulators, has added metal support for Mac OS. So if you have a Macintosh Apple computer and you want to run emulators to run ROMs of games that you assumedly legally copied, they should run a little bit better on Mac OS now. That's certainly nice. Of course, they probably ran fine before they had metal support, and they're probably still running fine just now. We've got a game on Steam called The Treasure of the Lost Temple. It looks like it's for the most part a RPG Maker game. It's tagged as RPG Maker. There's nothing here that interests me. We've got a game called Cave Sweeper, which is some kind of strategy casual game where you're, I guess, maybe playing Minesweeper with some expansions to the idea of Minesweeper. You're not doing as much minesweeping as you are also having fighting an enemy in what seems to be an endless dungeon crawler and collecting items that would increase your hit points and critical points. This isn't a terrible thought, frankly. It's $2.99, but I think I'm going to be generous and wishlist this and see if some people will review it and say if it's any good. Putting a spin on Minesweeper to make it more of a element, a RPG like gameplay style, does take something old and improve upon it. Game of Sutra has an article, 50 indie games highlighted in the Smithsonian SAAM arcade event. I guess that is Smithsonian American Art Museum arcade event. This year's games were, well, let's see. One called De Solis, one called Walden the Game, one called Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, I've heard of that one. One called Line Wobble, one called The First Tree, one called The Take, one called Exploobers, one called Four Last Things, one called Lost and Found Order in the Court, one called Doors to the City, one called Octopad instead of Octodad, one called Lightfield BR, one called Red Hot Ricochet, one called Luna, and one called Far Lone Sails, and I've heard of Far Lone Sails. So, of the indie games listed in this museum event for the Smithsonian,
I can see.
There's 2 out of 15 that I even recognize. Sure, it's definitely worth mentioning that museums tend to have different requirements and look for different things when building this. I've got to make a better Battlecry deck. My Battlecry deck right now sucks. It just sucks totally. What do I have that I can disenchant? Apparently an entire card pack didn't get disenchanted. What is in this deck? Battlecry, Battlecry, Battlecry. There's more Battlecries in this dragon deck than there is in my Battlecry Shaman deck. Like, HS Replay needs to rename their decks if they're gonna call that Battlecry. Like, museum creators are weird, certainly, and they're looking for artistic reasons, or maybe they're getting kickbacks for things or something. It seems like the museums are not in line with the general public.
Let the hunt begin.
You asked for it.
Which is alright. Exposing people to new things is a good idea, but a good thing to do, but I also think you could have thought of, like, Hellblade Suna's Sacrifice. Like, why is that not there as an indie game getting exposed? Did it not come out this year? Moving on, Your Gamer talks about the new Dead Island game that's available on cell phones. Dead Island is back as a tower defense game for your cell phones, which is really, really ridiculous. It's called Dead Island Survivors. It's not the first game this week that was just slightly snuck out with no announcements. Gearbox Publishing also released something on Switch with no announcement or advertising whatsoever. And arguably, you have to say, if your publishing people are not advertising your game, what are you paying for? Frankly. Like, what in the world did the developers of that game, the Gearbox, just put a video trailer on their YouTube channel, which nobody is subscribed to, I'm sure, or watching, and announced on Twitter that the game is coming out? Like, that's not going beyond it. Frankly, if somebody came to Gearbox Publishing as they're trying to develop themselves as a good publisher, and they said, we just want you to actually publish this, we don't want you to advertise this or put out any press releases or anything like that, the answer should have been, no, we'll do that for free. We've got to look like we're actually doing something here, or we can't do business with you. We're not going to sneak release a game out. That's not good for anybody. Even if your game is awful, you should still try to advertise it. I'd argue maybe not advertise it 3 years before it's actually out for release, but advertise it in some way. I'll probably talk about that later if I can get through this news. This is taking longer than it should. There's a game in Steam called Sarah in the Sky. It looks like it's an asset flip type game where the character is just wandering around the space field because they could easily get a space field off the Unity store. And it seems like it's mostly just a game where you're walking around collecting collectibles. It's $2.99 with no discount. Yeah, this just really feels like asset flips. A half attempt on making a game, but not having any artistic consistency to it. So I can't recommend it for anybody.
What to do?
Let's see. Holding the dragon, discover a dragon. Discover that dragon. That's a good dragon to discover. Gamasutra has an article. Get a job. Skydance Interactive is hiring an AI gameplay engineer. That job is Marina Del Rey, California. Arguably, we've mentioned that job multiple times. There's a game on Steam called Unborn. I think I already talked about this. This is a first-person shooter asset for zombie game. Total garbage. 40% off for $3.59. Nothing more needed to even be said. And then, did we already talk about Bloody Sand? Where it's a first-person shooter asset flip type game that looks a lot better than Unborn, but still is not a finished looking product in my eyes. See, I think I've hit the point where I'm hitting the same articles twice. I uninstalled the algorithm that is supposed to, not the algorithm, but the plugin that I was supposed to have, where it would stop duplicate tabs. I think what's going on with that is it does work, but it only works off of Twitter, because Twitter changes the links into tracker links, and the tracker links stop it from doing its thing. So I still ended up with a bunch of duplicate tabs regardless. I don't know of a great way to fix that, frankly. I'll probably deal with it later in a year or two and just live with it as it is. PC Gamer has an article. Fractured Lands is like Mad Max Battle Royale complete with vertical carnage. Is this game out yet, or is this just an advertisement for a game that you can't do anything about? This, yeah, kind of just looks like a Mad Max PUBG type game. The full early access launch is set later this summer, so yeah, there's literally nothing actionable, nothing you can do with this article. Like, remember the name Fractured Lands when it comes out this summer, if you're and get hyped about a game that's not even out yet.
And now, for my next trick.
Let's see. PC Gamer has an article. South Korea's Destiny Guardians is Destiny 2 with more microtransactions. The PC exclusive won't share servers with the rest of the world. So, Destiny 2, Destiny Guardians is a slight change on Destiny, so it has microtransactions and is free, where everybody else has to pay for Destiny and still kind of buy microtransactions, but not as much. I don't think either side is getting a better deal with that. We've got a game on Steam called Demons Are Crazy. It says it's an early access core free-to-play action RPG. Let's see. What kind of game is this? It's a MOBA, they say, and it has 50% positive reviews of 62 reviews right now. There, we got that done. See, I don't think I'm actually... I think I'm still on my European account. So I'm gonna quit out here. And yeah, I haven't even touched my America's account yet. So yeah, that kind of sucks. I was hoping to finish early. Demons Are Crazy. It looks...
There you are. Back from your
looks
adventures.
more like a World of Warcraft kind of clone. Some of the graphics look interesting, but it must play terrible for the reviews. It says it's early access. Let's see, can we trade any of these? No. 20 that cost 2 or less, so we have to play a Paladin Murloc deck, and that'll get that. But in the meantime, while we're doing that, we need to make... let's just make a mage deck. And take this, and this, and this, and... let's see. These two. And I think I can make a much better deck with my main account than I can otherwise. How's this? If your deck has only a HOD cards, draw a card. Let's see. Counter spells. And magic mirrors and vaporizes. And that. And how many more cards can I squeeze in here? That one. That's a good one to play. And a couple of those. And that one. A couple of those. And I think that's good enough. We can... well, actually... yeah, I think we can play with that just fine. I want to see the reviews on this game. It's like... add more graphics option, motion blur, come on, motion blur on an action game, are you kidding me? No options to turn off motion blur, seriously? Man, just know the graphics are horrible, like something from 2004. Can't log in since there's no way to register. No graphical setting, no res changing, needs more options. So you can see why half of the people don't like this game. Like, from the screenshots, it doesn't look great, certainly, but I like the artistic style. I just wish they had a better artist making this game. See, I can't really say anything else. This is the only game from that developer. Let's see. Trade out all those. We already talked about that game. Gamma Sutra has an article. Bethesda implies Sony is preventing crossplay in Fallout 76. At this point, I don't think there's any reason to imply anything. It seems like everybody is more than willing to say that Sony is directly stopping crossplay, and they don't care particularly how much that disadvantages or inconveniences the end user, and they're probably not going to change anything there. Rock Paper Shotgun has an article. Thief of Thieves adapts the heist comic from Mr. Walking Dead and is out this month. So based on the comic from the writer creator of The Walking Dead, so this game is based on a comic based on that, or it's as a game based on that. Of course, the Walking Dead TV series really didn't follow the Walking Dead comic book series, and I think many may argue that is the comic book was better.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Let's do this. Alright. This. And in the turn. So Thief of Thieves looks interesting. It's called Thief of Thieves Season 1. So I'll wishlist this and keep an eye on it. It's going to be rated and it's coming soon. So keep an eye on that. Gamma Sutra has a video, how visual novels cultivate a strong sense of narration. Certainly that is the case. Of course, narration is a problem when you're a YouTuber and you feel the need to read things out, or you're going to sit for an hour reading text with no commentary being made.
Time goes short.
And that's why, as much as I'd like to cover more visual novels, unless somebody was going to actually voice the dialogue, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to read all that dialogue. I'll just close that tab because I don't really need to watch the video. I talked about Hearthstone making some tiny changes. We have mirror entity. And hit that. And hit that. PC Gamer has an article. PT for PC is a faithful recreation of the world's most creepiest corridor. Did this project... Is this a different project of that PT? Or if this, is this just a article talking like PC Gamer is, it's a 1 GB download to get that, and I think I'll download that before any cease and desists come out and tell them to stop allowing that for sale. Try that again. Feel like I could have won there. So yeah, look up the PC Gamer article. PT for PC is a faithful recreation of the world's creepiest corridor. Let's see, does it play the full amount, the full story? Or is this... there's not a lot to it, but there wasn't a lot to the original either. It's still creepy. Let's see. So the question really comes down to, will this game actually have all of the interactions and audio and story, or is it just a corridor?
It is on.
made in Unreal Engine. Because if it's just a corridor made in Unreal Engine, I'm surprised we haven't had a game with an Easter egg where you end up in that corridor in some other horror game, or a very similar looking feeling corridor like that. Moving on though, let's see. Gamasutra has a blog. Yes, you do need to start your marketing your game early. I do agree 6 months is probably, in my opinion, the right time to start marketing your game, but this article says, first paragraph headers, it's never too early to start marketing your game. Let's see, apparently there's some tax reasons for that. Like, misconception, the first marketing equals advertising and you're allocating all or most of your marketing budget to ads. Maybe there's a different way in which they're using the word marketing. Maybe marketing, they mean marketing in the sense that you know whether your game is, well, I won that, I guess. That solves any problem of doing the Tavern Brawl. I really wanted to play that game too, because I had finally gotten the cards I wanted. I'm gonna just do that again. So yeah, if you, maybe that would make sense. It says misconception, the second, the more people you reach, the better. I guess maybe that's not the case. Misconception, the third, community building is too time consuming. So I'm kind of getting the idea that you could talk to fans and make sure your game is going to be popular amongst video game fans, and know that your game is actually has a market that would buy your type of game, instead of just coming out with some random game that nobody understands or wants to play, as a way of, and calling that marketing instead of generally just thinking marketing is advertising and saying, we've made this product, we're not going to adjust this product at all, you're just going to buy it. This
Just like you.
and this, and return. Misconception, the fourth, a surprise release is fine if you already have fans, because you'll do a you'll just do a launch discounts. So apparently somebody thinks that you can do a surprise release with launch discounts, and that's fine, and this article is disagreeing with that. Let's see. Just go ahead and kill this guy. Then in return. Next thing, well, that's the end of the article. I think I saw an article quite similar to this, written by a marketing agency, or somebody who ran a marketing agency, and he's kind of just building his own business. I think I saw something like that. I can't swear to it.
Smelly fish! Yummy fish!
I'm agreeing with a small percentage of this article as I'm just skimming it, but not a lot. I still feel like they overhype games. I still feel like there's a better way to release games and market them and advertise them only about 6 months before. I think the hype trains are way too long. Moving on though, PC Gamer has an article. Twitch hands 30-day bans to 2 popular streamers for using homophobic slurs. Destiny and M03 Mo have each been giving a lengthy timeout. So I don't know how popular Destiny or Mo really is. But it seems like even in Destiny's case, he said he used the F word and the retarded R word, and so and then he said maybe he should shoot Cubans. So like he seemed to have been definitely making some some offensive things, and he's now kind of whining about being banned for something that I think he probably fairly was banned for. We have yet to get to the point where it feels like the like Twitch is going to be a total pain about banning people for the smallest of offenses. Mo, for example, here, he has a Twitter. He says, "This is the clip that was sent for the reason of a ban. I don't know what to say. I didn't feel like I did anything hateful there. I was being transparent about saying the word and said I will try and stop saying it, but I guess this gets you an indefinite ban." Let's see. Apparently, according to PC Gamer, Mo defended use of the word, describing it as one of his favorite words of all time, and feigning surprise that people consider it offensive. And he uses the word faggot and retards, and so what was the type of this? Homophobic slurs? I guess the faggot one is homophobic, but I didn't see an instance here that said Destiny said anything homophobic. He said other offensive things. So the way PC Gamer wrote their title is inaccurate. Alright, I'm done. I'm done with playing the Tavern Brawl. It's not that good. Not worth playing a third time. I thought I might win. Hey! This will be funny because I probably have all epics on classic cards. So
Golden Comet.
This is all just gonna get turned into dust. Yeah, I have two faceless manipulators. So come over here. We disenchant this. We get 115 dust. And I just, even on my main account, don't feel like there's a justification to hold on to gold cards, so I'll just take the 50 dust. It seems like Hearthstone is also not giving full dust refunds anyways as often, so I'm sitting on a nice pile of dust to craft anything that I want to craft at some point in the future. Now I just need to play Paladin Murloc, which should work fairly well, although it might take a little bit long. Do I not have Paladin Murloc? Well, I need a victory with the Paladin. Let's go with Shield. That probably has some more ones in it. Gamasutra has an article, Fellbetter Games spearheads Love Indies Week for elevating devs and communities. Fellbetter Games seems to be just making their own week here. It's like, I don't think we need another week. There's enough weeks for everything, and segregating indies to 1 week is not a good move, and talking about all indies in just 1 week is not a good move. Indies should be talked about every week in the same line as AAA games come out.
None
Let's
will
see. Moving on,
survive.
Gamasutra has an article. UK publisher Rising Star Games has been acquired by Thunderful. I've never heard of either ones. Let's see. They've published a number. Rising Star has published a number of games, such as Trailblazers, Harvest Moon, The Lost Valley, Deadly Premonition, the Director's Cut, and SteamWorld Dig 2. So it just seems like it's a UK publisher. Probably not going to drastically change the video game industry with that acquisition.
The light protects me. I
One
fight.
of those. Gearbox, I'd said earlier, quietly released this game called Burnstar. That's the name of the game. I didn't say the name earlier. They really didn't know publishing or advertisement for it, and I don't know why you would partner with Gearbox when they're just going to throw your game out into the wild with no help whatsoever. Burnstar, I believe, is a game. I'm not sure there's any physical versions for the Nintendo Switch only. It feels like, if I was to guess, Burnstar lost their original publisher and had to come running to Gearbox at the last second to have somebody publish it. Or they thought that Nintendo would let the developers self-publish, and Nintendo said no. Gearbox is giving away some digital codes. That's kind of it. However, Gamasutra has a blog using achievement stats to estimate sales on Steam. I'm not sure that's super useful, or for people to try to do, or even the blog is probably not that useful for most people. Steam has said that they're going to try to come out with some new tools that do a better job than Steam database ever did. Although there is some talk on the Giant Bombcast, and this was an interesting way in which they translated this, that you may very well only be able to access the tools if you're a developer. So you'd have to pay like $50 to become a developer affiliated with Valve, to then get the information. And then there is also a question, will you be getting that information for all games on Steam, or will you only be getting the information for the games that you put on Steam, and maybe some very anonymized basic metrics for just everything on Steam, if even that. So until they actually have these tools out and people can start reporting what they are and what they do, that's a question. Somebody was pushing Red Faction Guerrilla's Remastered Edition. It's 50% off for $9.99. It came out July 3rd, 2018. So I'll make sure that's on my wish list, but I don't think that's a game that actually has much reason to be talked about. TechRaptor has an article. The We Happy Few successfully appeals the Australian ban. It's been classified R18+. Let's see if there's anything here. It's not unheard of for the Australian Classification Board to reject things originally and then make the company come back crawling, and then allow things. It seems to be kind of the way things go. Still, though, the idea that if a game is not classified, it can't be sold in Australia is not a pro-freedom idea. And Australians should contact their representatives and complain about that, in my opinion. Let's see. PC Gamer has an article. The director of A Way Out says his next game will also be published by EA. He says that EA has been super supportive. I'm not sure there's really anything else in this article to say. A Way Out, a game I could never play because it requires 2 people.
Put your faith in the light.
And a game that I don't think too many people really needed to play. It was a little overhyped, and then once people actually started playing it, they're like, yeah, it's fine, but it's not super important. Your Gamer has an article, Pokemon Go's boss on the game's future, Pokemon Let's Go, and event issues. So there's a whole interview here with the Niantic boss, question and answer session. If that interests you, I don't care enough to really read that article though. Let's see.
This last act of sacrifice shall not fall.
There's a game on Steam called Hamster Daily where you're a hamster rolling around trying to avoid obstacles and jump. It kind of looks like the last courses, well no, not the courses in Paperboy, but it looks like it's a race type thing. It looks animated well enough, but it is a very simplistic game. It's 99%, I mean 99 cents with no discount. And it just doesn't look like there's enough here to justify playing it. Frankly, it's the first game from this developer. It's a side-scrolling. It seems like it's all controlled by the mouse too, so the controls probably suck. Let's see. Rush.
Silvermoon shall not fall. Evil will be purged.
And kill somebody. Should kill that one. That wasn't smart. We got a game on Steam called Jumper Magic. It says jump, interact, attack, and use your mind if necessary. It says it's an indie casual game. It looks really, really pretty, and I'm wondering if this is some kind of asset flip of an entire finished game. Like, this looks way too pretty and way too consistent visually but it seems to have no interface or anything, so it seems like it's a walking simulator at best.
Only a fool rejects the Lich King.
Remember, Kel'Thalas.
Give that minion a turn to get ready.
Evil will be purged.
Let's see, this game, Jumper Magic, is only in English and Turkish. It's 10% off for $1.80. And I'm gonna keep an eye on it just to see if there's more user reviews. Like, there's one user review. It says, couldn't get past the first level. Maybe I suck, but this is not fun. I wouldn't be surprised if there is only one level. Let's see, this game has been made by developers made several other games, and none of them have been reviewed at all, and all of them are like under a few dollars. So yeah, looking at their other types of games that they've made, I'm starting to see a pattern of low quality games enough to justify that. Secret Paladin? Guess we'll try that. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. Bandai Namco announces its Gamescom 2018 lineup. Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, Code Vein, Dragon Ball Fighters, Jump Force, My Hero 1 Justice, Naruto to Boruto, Shinobi Strike, One Piece World Seeker, Soul Calibur 6. Pretty good lineup there. Pretty diverse number of consoles and PC releases too. It seems like, except for Dragon Ball Fighter Switch, which is probably just the re-release since Dragon Ball FighterZ is already out. Everything else seems to be coming to Xbox One and PC. So Bandai Namco is embracing the West in a way that we haven't seen Japanese companies do before.
None will survive.
We have a game on Steam called Alicia Quartermain 2, The Stone of Fate. And it says it's a strategy indie casual game from Jet Dogs, which is a weird developer. I don't know what kind of game this is.
Which path to choose?
Discovers.
Act now!
This looks like it's some kind of inventory or resource management game where you have to wander around in different places. I'm gonna do a little bit more investigation on this game before maybe wishlist it, maybe not. It's 10% off, $2.69. I guess the thing I need to do is see what the review is for the first game. Jet Dogs has made a lot of games. So Alicia Quartermain Secrets of the Lost Treasures is positive, 83% positive. In fact, most of Jet Dogs games are positive. So yeah, I'll wishlist this first game and give it a try, and then if I like the first game, then I'll wishlist the second game. We've got another game called Destructions on Steam. Destructions is a game in which it gives an opportunity to completely damage all at the levels which were created with an idea of destruction. Boy, was that not in English. It says it's an action indie casual. Seems like you're in a character creator and then you're in a 3D world and you can just run around and you put your hands together and shoot out magic balls that destroy things. And that seems to be all it is. This is an English and Polish game. We're getting quite the eclectic combination of English / other language games this week. But like I said at the beginning of the stream, most of these games are going to be bad. Destructions is no excuse. 10% off for an astounding $12.59.
I'll never tell.
That is ridiculously expensive. I doubt anybody will ever buy this game at that price. It doesn't look amazingly horrible, but it is probably just asset flips. The first game from this developer, and they want that much money. Let's see, we already talked about Burn Star, so we don't need to talk about that. We already talked about that. There's a game on Steam called Varnje Chapter 1, that's V-A-R-E-N-J-E. It's positive, came out June 3rd. 85% of 14% positive. It says it's a casual indie puzzle single player game. I think it's somewhat close to a point and click adventure, if I was to guess. It seems like it's sort of a point and click adventure. It's free to play, so the price is right. And I guess there's really nothing else to say about it. Point and click hidden object puzzle game combinations, they merge together these days. I guess I don't need a wish list though, a game that's free. So if you want to try Varnje Chapter 1, it's out there. It's rated positively. Looks like it'll get you. where you want to go
Put this apple
as
on
far
your
as
head.
Reporting
entertainment.
for duty. To arms.
I played that out of order. Close that. We already talked about that. There's a game on Steam called Stefano's Sizzling Pizza Pie, and it has an interesting look as a thumbnail, but it turns out that that thumbnail is probably just the only art in the entire game, and it's a one-screen game where you're playing basically asteroids. There's pizza in the middle, and I think you're shooting out. You're shooting things. Or actually, it doesn't even look like an asteroids game. It looks more like a tapper game, and you're having to tap the bad elements that you don't want on the pie, like little bugs, little roaches, yeah, while letting all the good pineapple slices, I guess, or cheese slices get on the pie. It's very simplistic and very cheap. It's 40% off for 59 cents. And yeah, I don't think so. There is this new thing that they've added to Steam. Maybe it was something you could do before, and it just is now being highlighted, where you can have shop items that are available to buy. So this 49 cents game also has these shop available items that are 49 cents each also, and they kind of look like icons and just things that you would have gotten through trading cards or booster packs or filling a badge. Seems like they've been shifted into a different direction, and that's pretty crazy that Steam would allow game companies to go in that direction. And it looks like this developer that made Stefano's Pie has made several other low effort games. Rock Paper Shotgun has an article, Bounce from one mortal peril to another in Merrily Perily, which is this early access. Looks like it's kind of a point and click type game. Oh, I can watch the trailer here. We got a little bit of time until we
light the way.
wrap everything up. We're almost done. It's supposed to be winning, and I may play a little off screen. So it's not a point and click game. It's a wander around RPG game with just a unique art style. And when you go in certain places, you're putting yourself in danger. And I don't know if you're trying to kill yourself or not. The game is on Steam, but it's not out on Steam, so I'll wishlist it and keep an eye on it for that reason. Play a wild, now play a standard, shield, casual gaming, get a victory. Take-Two CEO says Red Dead Redemption will sell as well as GTA isn't. No, it says Red Dead Redemption selling as well as GTA 5 isn't a realistic expectation. 100 million is a big number to beat. So I think what they're trying to go for is to set the expectations to like 50 million for Red Dead Redemption 2. There's also still rumor of a PC version of Red Dead Redemption 2, so maybe if that came out, that would push more people to buy it, although you do have to skip playing Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead, whatever other Red Dead games there were, and several other, and Red Dead Redemption 1, which is the main one to skip. I'm not even sure I want to play the cowboy story of Red Dead Redemption 2. It just
The light
in
protects
general,
me. The
I'm
light
not sure
protects
that's
me.
something that interests me. But you can go to PC Gamer and read that article. And that puts me at the Humble Monthly Bundle, which
Was not my contract.
right now there's only 4 bundles. Let's see. One of which is the Humble Monthly Bundle, and then there's 2 book bundles and 1 audio bundle, and no games bundle. The Humble Store, on the other hand, is doing their sale. So if you want to give money to the Humble Store instead of Steam, or if you get a better deal on Steam, on the Humble Store, by all means get games there. There is some shenanigans you can certainly do with buying things on the Humble Store, because then you can get the DRM free version of that game and give the Steam code to me if you don't care about it staying in your Steam library, and basically it's a buy one get one free shenanigan. I don't know if that's fully allowed or if there's something morally wrong with that. It seems like every day during this whole Prime Day giveaway, they're giving away games. Like, I'm looking at my Twitch account right now, and Battleship Brigade is free, so I just claimed that offer. That's a game I want to play, but I want it on my Steam accounts. I honestly have so many games on my Steam account, it doesn't make sense to play the game if I don't own it on Steam. It just makes the problem grow worse and worse.
The light dims.
Only a
We
protects the Lich King.
For Lorthamar.
But now I own Battleship Brigade, and I could play that, and I recommend everybody else check their Prime Day things every day. It seems like you have to do it every day. I closed the Humble Bundle Store tab on accident.
What would Uther do?
And so that then just puts me back to my Twitter account, and we're 23 minutes over, so I think at the end of this game we'll just wrap up. Like, I don't have a real reason to continue this and continue talking. Take it a little easy. I guess I could go into a slight rant and do one more game. Yeah, I guess I could. Let's do this. Let's play a Murloc deck and do this, and then we'll be done. 4th of July in the United States. I said I might talk about it if I have time. It seems like I have time. PC Gamer has an article. These are top selling Steam games so far. That's probably not a list I need to look at. There's danger, certainly in some people's minds in the United States, of misunderstanding what the Declaration of Independence was about and why it was called. In general, yes, nobody wanted to be part of the British Empire. There's something like 52 different countries that have Independence Days directly from the British Empire. But it was certainly not about giving people freedom. It really wasn't even about establishing a new country. The Declaration of Independence was written by a bunch of rich oligarchs and rich people, basically, who were people who were making money off of selling alcohol and tea. The Boston Tea Party, for example, is related to that. And they wanted power over the British government. And that's what they meant, and this is my opinion, when they said no taxation without representation. It's not about freedom, because when the Constitution was written after the Declaration of Independence, it didn't give freedom to everybody. It didn't give everybody the right to vote. It didn't count every person in the census to in the way that freedom or representation would be equal, because they were saying that slaves were only counted as 2/3 of a human in the Constitution. Most of the Bill of Rights and all of that, like, that was way longer than that. Most freedoms, most rights to education, all of that is not there. You could certainly do a whole lesson talking about how each of the constitutional articles was arrived in one way or the other. Freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, and a well-maintained militia, both of which were literally added to the Constitution so that the United States could maintain itself as an independent country and not just be called an illegal rebellion of the British Empire. But what is the third article in the Constitution? It's, I believe, the right to not have British troops, in particular, this is the reason it was written, to confiscate your land, confiscate your house, bunker in your house while they're fighting the rebellion. What is the Fourth Amendment? The Fourth Amendment is unlawful search and seizure, isn't it? So what is the Third Amendment? What trumps unlawful search and seizure? Is the Third Amendment the freedom of association, maybe, so that you could get together and form an organization that hates the British? It's a very, we hate the British Empire. That's where you should assume all of the beginning of the Constitution is that we don't want to be a part of the British Empire, and we've written it this way. That's where their head was at. It's really ridiculous when people try to say that the Second Amendment, it was because they wanted the government to be afraid of its citizens, and they wanted every U.S. citizen to have guns. That's certainly not the case. Like, slaves certainly weren't allowed to have guns. That's just not what they were thinking. And that adds to the more ridiculous thought of what of the Constitution being this infallible document that cannot be changed, when anybody with half a brain in their head knows it has to be a living document. It's always been written as a living document. It's always been written to have amendments and changes made to it. But the Declaration of Independence also is the beginning of the United States, and it is the beginning point of all the bad things and all the good things that the United States has ever done. And a lot of the bad things they've done are directly in the name of serving rich oligarchs. That's just how it is. Rich people. Even today, rich people are mostly influencing and running the government. The Declaration of Independence is the equivalent if Disney World or Disneyland said, we're going to be our own country. They basically are their own county in Florida, the Buena Vista County, and they have their own police station, and they have their own local representatives. Disney is only a few steps from declaring independence if they wanted to. They don't want to, because that's just not how it's done now. It's much easier to bribe politicians than it is to become politicians. But yes, alcohol sellers, tea sellers, other rich and influential people got together, decided they didn't want to pay taxes to the British Crown, if the British Crown had said we will give you representation, and if you continue to pay the taxes, we'll give you representatives, they still would have found an excuse to not want to pay the taxes and declare and start the revolution. It wasn't about representation at all. The amount of taxes at the time, I believe, was only like a penny, maybe a nickel. It was not a large amount of money. Maybe a nickel's a lot back then, but it still wasn't that much. But it was just rich people trying to save money. Once the United States gets formed, Manifest Destiny and the use of Chinese and slaves to build the railroads are all built around the idea of getting shorter shipping routes and being able to ship your products cheaper and make more money. The purchase of the Mississippi and all of that, and just getting more land, it was all built around the idea of having more farmland to grow more products to sell. Like, the history of the United States, and probably the history of most countries, is economics, is all it is. It's rich people using the law to their advantage, using the poor people to their advantage. So it's kind of hard to in my mind justify why you're celebrating the Declaration of Independence and the formation of the United States. I'm happy that the United States was formed. I wouldn't want to be under a British rule right now. Britain is super crazy about censorship and controlling their people and spying on their people. And there is just this inherent difference in personality between the Protestants and Puritanicals that went to the United States and formed the United States versus the people that stayed behind in the UK. So it had to happen at some time. I'm happy that it did happen, but I don't know what I'm really celebrating. Is the Declaration of Independence to support the troops? If I'm supporting the troops, what actions of the troops do I actually support? Do I support the actions when they were in Vietnam, when they really shouldn't have been? Like, am I just blindly supporting troops because they're the troops? Am I blindly supporting people that voluntarily became entered the military? Am I supporting, like, Iraq? There's been so many debacles. Am I supporting the Bay of Pigs incident? Am I supporting all the bad things the CIA and FBI has been caught doing and manipulating other countries? Right now, the argument is being made that Venezuela was interfered with by the United States, and that caused a lot of strife in Venezuela, and that caused the migrants that crossed the Mexico border into the United States, which caused more strife. So often it feels like the United States causes its own problems. Most people, most countries cause their own problems. So what am I celebrating on the 4th of July? What really? What would I be celebrating on any country? I'm not just picking on the United States. Like, if this was Mexico's Independence Day, if this was Spain's Independence Day or Australia's Independence Day, what are you really celebrating? What has your government done that was good? What has your government that's done that's bad? And at least that's a thought I think people should have on the 4th of July. It's like, what do you like that your government's done? What do you like that your government has done? What can you say you want changed, and what can you say that you don't want changed? There certainly are good things that the United States has done, but it's not an extensively long list. Governments in general do things that are controversial at best. So, yeah, that's my little rant about 4th of July in the United States and blind patriotism. And there's certainly in the United States weird combinations of patriotism and religion, particularly the Christian religion, which is disgusting from the perspective of anybody who is a true believer in Christianity. The idea that you would tie any love of God on the same level as the love of your country is completely against what the Bible says. The Bible says God is a jealous God. You should put no one else before him. I don't think he wants you to even put anybody on the same level as him. So when you see churches celebrating and giving sermons about the 4th of July, it doesn't mean anything. God's the Christian God, and I don't think any God would ever respect or authorize any country. That's part of the reason why people are against the monarchy in the UK, is the idea that the Church of England and God has picked the monarchy, the king, the queens, and the princes and all that their bloodline is royally better than everybody else's, and that they should rule forever just because of that. So there's some weirdness there. There's a lot of just lack of thinking, though, and I would encourage everybody to think about why you're celebrating the formation of the country, and what are the important parts of a country. Certainly, what are the things that you don't want to see changed? What are the things you do want to see changed? And I got through that whole rant without even mentioning the fact that with the Declaration of Independence and the formation of the United States, there is also the complete eradication of most Native Americans, near complete eradication of Native Americans, and resettling and Trail of Tears, and the wars with the British and through Canada, and wars with Mexico. There's also the downright theft of Hawaii by more rich banana plantation owners, I believe is who it was, that overthrew a already established and recognized king of Hawaii, and then immediately applied to be a state of the United States. The United States has also been kind of quiet as far as attempting or thinking about becoming adding any more states, so the country doesn't feel like it's growing as much as it might be able to. Although maybe, I think I heard maybe Puerto Rico was going to try and vote on it or something. Or the Philippines. One of the territories that aren't quite states. There is also a bigger argument. Rome was a republic. The United States was a republic. Rome only lasted about 200 years. The United States is slightly over 200 years old, I believe. There might be an argument that countries just kind of run out of steam and they just fall apart and they need revolutions. Arguably a French-style revolution in which we got rid of and imprisoned all of the extremely 1% wealthy people and confiscated their hoarded funds, passing a law to say, look, some some level of rich is just illegally, immorally too rich, which I think there is reason and rhyme for a law that says there's such thing as being immorally too rich. Getting paid 100,000, a million times more than your employees is not acceptable. A revolution on class, so that there actually was a middle class in the United States instead of the lie of a middle class and actually everybody is at best upper lower class, or poor but slightly less poor than the poorest of the poor. There's definitely some laws I'd like to see changed. I'd like to see, as automation continues to happen and less people are needed to actually do jobs, that we introduce some universal basic income and some ideas of socialism, maybe a less protectionism on some industries that don't need to exist. For example, corn subsidies and having corn in everything, including our gasoline and food products, is not a healthy, smart way to run an industry. Subsidizing oil and coal for no reason is ridiculous. But yeah, I mostly look at the United States as an economics model more than any kind of other model or thought. I'll just quickly say Darksiders is still airing on my channel, and Riven, the sequel to Myst, is airing on my channel. And that's kind of all I needed to do. So, if you have any thoughts on my thoughts on the 4th of July, which my thought really just breaks down to, what are you thankful for? Because there are valid responses there. You can certainly say, I'm thankful I live in the United States over living in the middle of Africa, some impoverished hut there. There's definitely some opportunity that you get from living in the United States compared to other places. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any response. That's gonna be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, one more day for the Steam Summer Sale, and several more days, I believe, for the Humble Sale to get Steam codes through the Humble Store. So friend me on Steam and gift me a game directly through the Steam Summer Sale, or just whenever. Or, direct message me Steam codes via Twitter. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.